everyone. Welcome to the January 13th meeting of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. Thank you all so much for joining us. First on our agenda is an update from our co-executive directors, Karen and Doug, if you want to take it away.
Doug, do you want to talk about the budget?
Sure. Based off of last week's meeting, Karen and I put together a budget letter requesting additional funding for this upcoming budget, and we have not heard back yet. But we have called again as well to try to get a meeting to be in the executive's budget.
Right.
That was the letter that went directly to the state budget director, Mojica, Mr. Mojica.
Correct. It was addressed to Director Mojica, and it copied all legislative leaders and the governor.
We're on the record.
Yes.
We also have heard back from SUNY Research Foundation. We've been having several conversations over the last week. There seems to be some hesitancy on the part of the board of the Research Foundation to proceed. And so we need some time to iron out some administrative details. It could take a few weeks.
Thank you, Karen. Given that, should we go ahead and reschedule our meeting now while we're discussing this? Would 3 weeks be sufficient for purposes of the commission? So aiming for a meeting on February 4th, Thursday, February 4th.
I can support that.
Okay.
Time.
So should we, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brady, were you saying something?
You know, I was just checking in okay for the date.
Okay, so should we begin our trying to have regular meetings on Thursdays again? So should we say 10 a.m. on Thursday the 4th and then continue and then stick with Thursdays going forward? So, I mean, Commissioner Nesbitt, as I recall, you have a monthly commitment.
I do.
Okay.
I'm in a position to push that a little bit because the board, they'll change their meeting time a little bit for me. So if we're meeting at 10, I think that would be fine.
Okay, so that can be our regular time going forward again. So Thursday, February 4th at 10 a.m. Does that work for everyone?
Works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
All right. Would anyone like to discuss, these issues, or would anyone else like to discuss anything on this topic?
What, funding?
Yes.
Sure. I mean, we have the legislature hard at work changing the constitutional amendment, debated in the state Senate yesterday, if I understand correctly, and the Assembly. And frankly, if they have the ability now, since they've convened, to actually consider changes to the Constitution and changes to the laws that we're going to be possibly affected by as a commission, I would think that they would also have the ability to fix whatever hurdles there may be with regard to funding our commission and streamlining it so that the funding was actually available, so that all of the issues and hurdles that have been identified would have been resolved. And I'm surprised that they haven't. Disappointed. It's put us in a really tough spot. I think all of us can agree that without that funding, we're at a standstill. I can't help but remark that from experience from other states, California, Commissioner Imamura, as you shared, they were dealing with tens of thousands of comments that came in. A state like New York, where I expect that we're going to have every bit as much outreach, and I expect we'd have every bit as much outreach and participation. The fact that there are just the 10 of us and our 2, at this point, volunteer executive directors is shameful. And we should all be indignant, we should all be concerned, and the fact that they took the time yesterday to advance changes to the law without addressing the real concerns and the real-time issues that we're dealing with as a commission, frankly, is a slap in the face, and we should all take it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add one comment, to some degree echoing Commissioner Martin's. It is shocking one state legislature can change the law before they bother to abide by the law of ensuring funding that is set forth in the Constitution already. And I agree that we all should share disdain for this action and urge our principals or appointing authorities to put first allowing us to do our work now, because we are at a standstill. We have people working as volunteers, and that's clearly not what was intended. I guess my second point would be merely, where do we stand by way of question with respect to the executive budget?
Karen, Doug, do you have any updates on that?
I can't answer that question. Doug, do you?
Commissioner Wolford, can you repeat the question? I'm not.
Well, I think the answer, right, is that you sent the letter to DOB, right, requesting a meeting, right, and you have not gotten a response, correct?
Correct. We
Yes.
also
Okay.
we also put in writing the number that we are requesting as well, so they're aware of the number. We have called to request a meeting. We have not gotten return phone calls, and we have not gotten a response to the letter.
I would just remind everyone again that the executive budget is released on the 19th. And if you're going to print it, you better get started.
I guess that the reasoning for that question was, I know we spoke about a meeting February 4th based upon the Research Foundation difficulties. I am wondering whether these we as commissioners, given the executive budget timetable, would not want to have a meeting earlier than that February 4th date. I just wanted to raise that for discussion.
So I think I'm very open to doing that, Commissioner Walford. I think the question, would our co-executive directors think that helpful to schedule something in advance, or should we schedule something once we have any additional progress or hear anything?
I can weigh in. We need a little bit of time to work out the contractual issues. And to Commissioner Winter, if it's not in the initial budget, there is also the 30-day amendments. So there's an opportunity there as well. So the 4th is fine, but if there is movement, I would think that we could call one earlier than the 4th. Karen, you can weigh in on that.
Right. The 4th also, we're expecting Tiger to be released. So it's a good time to have a meeting. Tiger is the Census Bureau's geographic product. It's the base map for redistricting. So hopefully we'll be able to discuss that.
So Commissioner Wolford, would it be all right with you if we have a meeting scheduled for the 4th, but in so much as there's any movement, we should schedule a meeting and at the date mutually acceptable to the group?
Look, I guess I would raise, the question is which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I suspect that sometimes us scheduling meetings creates progress rather than waiting to have a meeting, which may in fact retard the progress until immediately in advance of that. So maybe a week earlier, just for discussion purposes.
All right, so it has been, Commissioner Walford is asking that the meeting be held on January 28th. I do not object. Are there any objections from the commission? Any other commissioners? All right, so Thursday, January 20th, should we say 10 a.m.?
Yep.
Okay.
If I may, commissioners, Mr. Inamora, Mr. Wolford, Martin, all of us, between now and the 28th, I had the pleasure or displeasure of briefly leading or not too briefly, leading another commission that was doomed to really be a paper commission. It was an unloved commissioners, the Interstate Environmental Commission. Wonderful groups, still going through the waters, but trying to get funding. We were killed by 1,000 knives, basically. Minimum funding. People looking to kill this commission um, are out there through a constitutional amendment to revoke a constitutional amendment that put us here to do the people's work. Between now and our next meeting, is there any way we could let the public be heard in some manner? Let the groups that are not being heard, let the people who want to present these things somehow be heard, and let their displeasure at what's happening in the legislature be heard, so we can maybe move on a little bit. It's not just the 12 of us or the 15 of or however many of us there are that are being that are having our rights as citizens of New York State trampled on. It's people, and the census, and with this compressed time period that's coming up, for us to be killed and maybe not even getting the 30-day amendments aren't guaranteed. 30-day amendments a couple of years ago meant nothing. The governor was holding them too tight. If that's the same story this year, and we can find ourselves in a very serious situation, and not really having to worry about what meetings we have. It would be nice if and I can be completely, let me know if I'm crazy, let other people be heard, let their displeasure be heard at this as well. It's not the kind of thing that may be sexy and get in the papers and that there's a lot of noise about, but maybe there's a way to let that at least be heard, or get that out there a little bit. I know there are people who want it out there. Certainly are good government groups, etc.
So, Commissioner Brady, I agree with you, and I think that the League of Women Voters and the LEO and multiple other entities did an amazing job in terms of helping assist us with our funding issues earlier. I think that one question is that it is not clear to me that the legislature is the responsible party here, right? The hurdles that we are looking at are procedural in multiple different areas, right, outside of the legislature. So I think I would agree with you, except in so much as the fact it's kind of unclear who I, as an average citizen, should address, right? I think that these are procedural issues that we, as a commission, are trying to resolve. So I agree with you, and I think that the public has done a tremendous job thus far in weighing in. I think that everyone on this commission agrees that we need public input as soon as possible in all areas. But I just wonder about the exact mechanism of what you're proposing.
Oh, we certainly don't want to have 25,000 people calling Mr. Mujica or calling their local assembly member or state senator, but it could be that could be the nicest thing they've heard recently. The way things are going.
That is true, Commissioner Brady.
I just to point out, at this time of year, there's a cacophony of input into the budget process. Hopefully, some of our earlier and our written correspondence will be helpful. I'm sure that others are paying attention. We may, who knows, we may see some reporting on this, for instance, but whatever help we can get would be good for sure. But having been there, as others have been at this point in time, it's 12 hours a day or 20 hours a day of input on, we need something.
Well, Commissioner Nesbitt, and everyone, frankly, just forgive me, because I am going to continue to push this point. We wrote a letter to the legislative leadership and to the governor in September. We sent another letter just a couple of weeks ago. We didn't get a response. The only response we got was from Senator Ort, the Senate minority leader. Frankly, let's remember that they had a debate and moved legislation on the floor yesterday with regard to this issue, and have wholly ignored our requests for them to intervene and to resolve our funding issues. Now, we can sit here and talk about who's to blame and who's not to blame. What I can tell you is we have not gotten a response from the legislative leaders, and instead they have advanced legislation. So they are aware of the issue. It isn't as if they are not paying attention. They're advancing their own agenda. And we're not going to get into a discussion as to whether the changes are proper or aren't proper. That's not for us to say. At least I don't believe it is. But to sit back and not be funded and be ignored by a group that's advancing legislation and sit here and try and tiptoe around that issue is absurd. We are appointed commissioners to move this process forward. It's an important process. We've all recognized it. We're looking at examples of this happening all over the country, where every other state in the country is advancing their process right now, and we can't get off go. And so let's be indignant. Let's call it what it is. And let's demand that for whomever happens to be watching or whoever happens to be listening or paying attention, the juxtaposition of what they did and what they're doing and what they're refusing to acknowledge is striking. And we shouldn't accept it.
Any other comments on this issue? All right, so any other topics for discussion? Commissioner Plateau, yeah. You are on mute.
I was muted, yes. I thought it would help the fuzz wafting through our conversations. In the short term, is there some mechanism that we can activate so that we can begin to capture? I'm following up on Commissioner Brady's point. Capture input comments from the public?
So I look to our volunteer co-executive directors for their input on this.
Well, yeah, look, I'll jump in ahead of them. I don't think there's any way that we can appropriately manage or keep or store or share that information that comes in. Once we get a little bit of money and we're able to develop a support organization, we can appropriately do that. But anybody that put in information now, we could not guarantee them that we could retain it, manage it, make it available, or otherwise use it, other than maybe for an individual commissioner. So until we get a structure, we really shouldn't be taking input that could be lost. I mean, that's just a fact. It could be forgotten because we were unable to retain it.
Yeah, Karen, Doug is.
I agree.
Yeah, we would not be able to keep a proper record without some sort of infrastructure technology on our side. So I would agree with Commissioner Nesbitt.
You know, I mean, I think one thing we could do is, even if we cannot get information, I think we can do a better job of distributing it. So potentially we could talk to our Senate colleagues about our friends in the Senate and set up some kind of form to get email addresses so that when we send our notices out, we can add people to the list of people who get notices. But I agree that absent some kind of infrastructure, we cannot receive information, but perhaps we can do a better job of giving it out. Commissioner Walford. Yeah. Oh, sorry, John. Yeah.
Another Commissioner Martins, would you happen to have handy the bill numbers of the legislation you said was being discussed and advanced yesterday?
S515.
What committee? Excuse me?
It was on the floor of the Senate yesterday. I can get you the bill number. I have it
S515.
a file over here.
S515?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Walford, you had unmuted yourself.
Yes, I had a question for Co-Executive Director Blatt, who spoke about the discussions with SUNY Research Foundation. Was there any particular granularity or detail on the issues that they're having that are holding up progress or a draft contract or anything of the sort? Because my understanding is we've seen nothing in writing, even though we've sort of been at this process for at least this portion of the process for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks now.
That's a good question. I'm not privy to what goes on in their meetings, and I'm not quite sure what those issues are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other items for discussion? All right. Well, that being said, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 28th at 10 a.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Winter, seconded by Commissioner Frazier. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you all so much. We will see everyone on Thursday, January 28th. Thank you.